I love it.
Oh yeah, I think it already happened.
Probably.
Hmm. All
Chat.
right.
Here we go. We're getting into it. Here's what we're doing today. You can see it on the screen right there, but it's more Pro League talk. We had the 2 weeks of Division B happen, so we're going to talk about what happened there, go week 1 to week 2, and then, obviously, we're wrapping back. The second round of the round robin is going to be happening for Division A, so we'll preview that a little bit of what we think is going to happen, possibly some meta switches happening, and things like that. And obviously, the addition of Valkyrie will be coming into play too. So that's sort of the general topics for the show. Obviously, we're going to deep dive into certain teams, players, situations. Please, throughout the show, give your opinions in chat. We sort of bounce off of your guys' ideas too. But let's get right into it.
Yeah, I think we just sort of go over our initial thoughts at Division B. That's sort of what we did with Division A. Overall, just coming into it, I think for a lot of people, like clear top 4 was Luminosity, E United, Splice, and then probably FaZe, just based off recent results. But that obviously got thrown upside down. And then really this sort of division, I think, really depended on the sort of like the 5, 6, 7 seeds and how they were going to perform. The Unilad, Evil Geniuses, Envy. So I think this was, I think to a lot of people, this was a more balanced division.
Right.
It wasn't top heavy, but the thing with this division is like you could have an EG versus Luminosity matchup. Like you would probably say that LG would win that 9 out of 10 times, but that one time, if Apathy just went off or if Nameless had a great game, like they could take a series, right? I think that's what this division sort of had. It had a lot more upset potential than Division A, just due to the star power on some teams. But you can obviously see that there was some changes in our rankings, right? So just very early on, it was I think a fun division overall.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we previewed this several shows back, obviously before the Pro League started, and we thought the middle of the pack is going to be extremely competitive, down to the wire, and I still feel like it's going to be like that. Where those 5, 6, I guess 4 through 7 are really neck and neck. It really depends on the day which team is going to be able to outperform. We didn't think it was going to be as a top heavy group as we thought, but it ended up kind of being that way simply because Envy really stepped it up and completely changed their style of play. And Envy was one of those teams that we thought was going to be towards that middle of the pack, and sure enough, they finally turned things around, and thank God, it kind of proved both of us wrong, really.
Yeah, I think so, right? I mean, people were just waiting for this to happen with this Envy roster. I was a pretty big advocate of waiting until stage 1. I just thought they just needed time, just plain and simple.
Right.
You could tell that Hook was just still adjusting. There was, again, it was never a slaying issue with this team. It just was a team. It was a teamwork issue. And like if you go back and look at past stats for events, they were doing fine. It's not like you can just point at one person and say, yeah, he had a bad event. Like, blame that guy. It was literally just teamwork. Things were off, especially in Hardpoint. They would outslay and consistently lose. So things just weren't going the right way.
It was that, and it's like I feel like they weren't even doing that bad placings-wise.
No, they weren't.
Like that.
No.
But the expectation was so damn high. I feel like that's why everyone had this sort of mentality like, oh, this player's washed. Oh, this player wasn't doing that well. And, I guess it just took time for them to really solidify their roles and all really get comfortable with the game, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, let's go ahead and look after week 1. You had LG 4-0, sort of expected. They were rolling. The big thing with Luminosity has been their search and destroy. I think they're still undefeated in stage 1 so far. So I think they look great as expected. Sort of the first seed after the first week. They had a close, they went to a game 5 with the United, but besides that, they 3-0 Epsilon. They 3-0 EG, they 3-1 Unilad. They didn't have the toughest week overall. They didn't. The next week will obviously be a lot tougher for them, but they just handled business. Envy at 3-0, this surprised a lot of people, but I think at the time we sort of had to hold the brakes. Yes, they 3-1 FaZe. That was a big win. That caught a lot of people off by surprise, but there's also the fact that it is the first match. I don't want to give an excuse for FaZe because they did get outplayed, but sometimes teams just take a little bit to warm up. It happens. So that was a great result, and we'll see, down the line that if you were a FaZe fan, you're kind of okay with that result. It's not a huge deal. It's not like it was an upset. But besides that, Envy, they 3-1 EG, which you thought they should have beaten. They 3-1 Unilad. So definitely. I think overall it was like, okay, they're 3-0, but let's hold on a second because next week they're going to have a much tougher week because the only top team they played this week was FaZe. So, yeah, I think it was a solid week one though, because if they lose any of those games, we know how hard they are on each other, even when they're winning. Like I'm there every day. Like as soon as they got done, like Temp and Slasher and would just start, just sort of discussing. They weren't even happy that they won. They knew they could continue to play better, and I love to see that.
That's a great mentality, definitely.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I saw is like, yes, obviously Classic and Temp stepped up their play to a much more above average level, but I feel like we finally saw Hook kind of coming into that form that we expected him to be in at the start of this game. And where he turned back into that elite sub for, not always for a whole map, but there were situations where he would just pull off some crazy stuff. And I was like, just sitting here at home watching the stream, I'm like, damn, this dude is back in a sense. And that's when this team is really going to become scary for me, is like when their sub pressure can become on par with some of these other top teams. Because obviously you have Slasher, the guy's a top AR. For how long now? I get like 2 years straight, maybe even longer than that, where he's just always putting up crazy KDs. You know what you're going to get out of the guy in respawn and search and destroy in every sort of scenario. They just needed that extra sort of fast pressure, which is so important in this game, and they finally got it. Sure enough, they start dominating.
Yeah, even like his movement, like back in AW when you would watch Hook, he just had a swagger to him. Like you would just watch his screen and you were like, this guy knows everything he's doing. Everything is sort of calculated. He knows every situation in and out. And he used movement so well. And you could kind of see it. Like that swagger was showing a good amount. Even just the first match versus FaZe, like they played a London Docks Hardpoint and he just looked so much better. Like you could just tell he was very comfortable. So it was a great week for Envy. Then going down that list, you had FaZe 3-1. Besides that sort of Envy loss, you had a 3-0 over E United, which we thought at the time was huge. Like we were like, that's a huge win. They 3-0 EG, and then who else did they beat? They 3-2 Splice. That was a little bit scary because Splice obviously had to fill in. Jerd wasn't there, which sucked. But they went 2-2. But for FaZe, it was a solid week for them. And the one thing that scares me about FaZe is I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the mentality or what it is, because you obviously the next week you have like the game where they just run over Luminosity, but then they just sort of I don't know. It's almost like they play down to their opponents a bit.
I feel like I don't know. This might come down to replays as just personality overall, but sometimes he's just so nonchalant, just chill, and like I don't want to say he doesn't care. But some days it just doesn't. You can kind of see it on his face where he doesn't have that same fire. But then on the other side of the coin, there's those days where you see it and you're like, "Holy, these guys are ready to go!" And they really turned it around. And I feel like the one thing I do have to give FaZe props for is they seem to figure out their mistakes very fast, which not a lot of teams are doing right now. So the fact that they were able to have a tough couple of matches to start off and bounce back that fast, not a lot of teams are going to be able to do that. And second off, I feel like we finally saw, I was saying sort of how we saw Hook in full form. You could really say the same for Zuma and Attach, where the sub players on a lot of these top teams are getting into their rhythm. And whether that they're just more used to the game or just they needed more rep, I don't really know what it is, because it seems like all of a sudden several SMG players are really figuring it out and performing so damn well. And that's what you and I have been talking about this for literally years at this point, where we are like, what happened to AW, Attach, and Zuma, where you couldn't touch them at all. And it's been a while since we've seen it, but again, we saw Zuma really turning up at times and just seemed like he would sprint at people. He had that swagger. You can't stop the guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, like every time they went to his screen, he was doing something, whether it was Search and Destroy, whether it was Hardpoint. I think the other factor of FaZe is really Priesta. Like he has been, like he plays, you could say that the sort of third sub, second AR is probably the toughest role to have because, I mean, you're constantly switching. You're dependent, like they are dependent on you, and he's been solid. Like he has been super consistent for this team. I've been impressed. I know some of the other analysts, have been impressed. But yeah, the star power is finally starting to show for FaZe. And when we go to the second week, when they 3-0 Luminosity and just sort of run over them, you're like, okay, like this is what FaZe could always be, but they have to consistently play at that level, and they don't. And I agree. I think it is sort of replays. Like, it's a ton of pressure. It is a ton of pressure for replays because he has to be the leader. He has to be, you could have a down day or you don't sleep well and you don't have the energy. But as soon as that energy, he brings it to the stage, those guys follow him. Like that's just it. They look up to him. And like you said, like the reason they fix mistakes so much is they are a team. Like all four of those guys get along together. They can criticize. They can criticize one another. Again, that's why I think you go from a loss to Envy, you go to a game 5 with Splice, and then you go to 2 3-0s. They fix their mistakes quickly. Their CTF is back, which I think is a vital part. I'm still a little worried about Hardpoint and Search. Their win percentage after both weeks is still only around like 55%. I'd like to see one of those rise up because, again, where you'll see in the next week where they go like game 5 with a Unilad. One of those has to be a little bit higher if you want to consistently put in results. So overall, a solid week from FaZe. Just going through like Splice 2-2. I mean, I think they did the best they could with the sub. They have a game 5 with E United, a game 5 with FaZe. Those are the 2 matches you thought they're probably going to lose these with a sub, and then they win the 2 they needed to win, which were over Epsilon and I think over Unilad. So solid performance from the Splice guys.
Yeah, for sure. How do you think Fellow did overall? Obviously filling in a scenario like that, you can only take so much from it, but still, he's on the outside looking into the Pro League. You got to assume that Complexity is going to be one of those teams that will have a good fighting chance to make it into relegation, right? So how do you think he performed individually?
I think the first couple of matches he was a little uncomfortable, almost like he was trying to do too much.
Right.
Especially in a Hardpoint. I think Search and CTF he was comfortable. I feel like they just sort of allowed him to play his own sort of style or play where he was comfortable. But Hardpoint's difficult, right? How do you fit in? I just feel like he needed to focus on himself more. Like there's nothing you can do as a sub. Just perform consistently. Like that's the only thing you can ask. Like, as long as you don't get dumped on, then you have a fighting chance, which they did. They went to game 5 2 times with United and FaZe. So I thought he performed fine. If we saw a week 2 Unilad in week 1, they might have been 1-3. But so when you look down at things, that was a very big win. But I thought he was fine. I think the thing is that Tommy and Mad Cat really stepped up for those guys. So that was a solid week out of Splice.
Yeah, for sure. And, man, imagine if they won one of those game 5s down to the wire. That would have completely switched it around, and then you have all that momentum. You get your actual teammate back. Could have been some crazy stuff if they were able to take one of those. But, hey, 2-2 with a sub. You can't be too mad at that. Moving down the line a little bit now, we see United at 1-2. And, man, I don't know what is going on exactly with these guys, but it's looking a little bit grim lately.
Yeah, I mean, I'll rant more about this lineup after week 2 because you're thinking 1-2, not the worst start. They beat Splice, they get 3-0'd by FaZe, and they lose a game 5 in Luminosity. Those aren't the worst results. Like overall, those aren't horrible results. FaZe and Luminosity are both respectable losses. You would love to see them win one, but you weren't worrying about it too much if you were an E United fan. The thing that sort of scared me is I was looking at stats after week 1 and nobody was over a 1. Like they were all around a 0.9, like a 0.85. And I don't take, again, stats don't mean everything, but that is a big sign that something is wrong. Like you need stars to perform. Like Clay has to slay or Arcides has to slay. Like that just makes the game easier. If you're not getting those kills, the game's just going to be more difficult, like plain and simple. So that was a scary sign to me. That just meant guys weren't performing well. There was issues. I don't know how much they practiced coming into it, but it just it did scare me. Like plain and simple, it scared me that those guys didn't perform at their best ability. But there was always that chance of, okay, next week they can sort of turn that on.
For sure. Yeah, and it just again, a lot of these maps and situations, you're put into this scenario where you have to have strong three subs, and we've had the Clay and RCD's debate for a long, long time now. And when is it going to bite them? I don't know if that's the absolute problem, or if they just need to really figure it out and spend more time figuring out who's going to be running the consistent third sub, whatever it may be. But again, you don't really look at RC's and Clay being very strong SMG players. It just
Silly's the same thing,
yeah,
right?
Silly's really the same thing. That's true. It's hard to pin it on one person. They're all stuck in a scenario where they probably aren't playing their most comfortable role, and it shows through at times. So tough. We'll touch on the United more as we go into week 2, as we saw some more interesting things from them. Moving down the line again, though, we got EG at 1-3. Kind of expected when you see the lineup of all these teams.
Yeah, I mean, you just weren't sure. Obviously, you have a 7th, 8th at New Orleans. And they showed signs of them being better, but they win their first match versus Epsilon. That went to a game 5. So that's a scary sign already. Then, like, they get 3-0'd basically by the better teams. They win one map against Envy. Again, like, I'll wait sort of till after week 2 to really go into a rant, but these guys just don't look like a team. And I'll tell you, like, after every single match, Tyler, like, these guys were having basically, like, just discussions. Like, you could tell they weren't on the same page. Like, it was Enable, it was Aches, it was Nameless. Like, App just kind of did his thing. Like, the big thing for me was someone had to step up for this team. In week two, you see Apathy sort of step up. But I think after week 1, Aches had, like, a 1.4 in S&D, but Respawn, it was like a 0.8. It wasn't the best, and you just can't have that. And I think it was the same thing for Enable. Like, Enable had like a 1.2 in Respawn, but then like a 0.7 in Search and Destroy. Like, that can't happen. They just look completely different in 2 different game types. The one sort of outlier for EG was they looked pretty solid in Search and Destroy, although they won 2 of those, so they only won 4 maps. In week 1, and 2 of those were round 11s versus Epsilon, where Pat dropped like 15 kills on both Search and Destroy. So again, they had the last spot in North America. There's a lot of big names on this team, but in this division, you would hope, like, the highest you'd probably put them as 5 is at 5-6.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I just don't see how much, in terms of them turning it around when going into the second round of the round robin, and after what we saw from week 2 from them, it's like, it kind of seems like that's where they belong. They've had a lot of time to really sort through their issues. They haven't really had like a absolute crazy event or individual consistent performances from some of the players on the team. And it's like, it makes me wonder. It's like, if you slotted these players into some different teams, for examples, let's say some roster changes go down, it's like, who's the best player, or who are some of the couple best players on the team? I don't know if I could tell you and be extremely confident. You know what I mean? Obviously, each player on the team has had glimpses of greatness at times, but haven't really been able to put it together consistently at all. We can talk about if the meta change will help them or not, which it might not. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But interesting stuff overall. We can very lightly touch on Unilad and Epsilon. Obviously, week 1 not going too great for them. Both of them starting with 0-3 finishes, and I'm really not surprised at that either.
I mean, yeah, this is what was expected. You knew Unilad was going to be a contender. Like, they would have some close games. They had a game 5, that week, a couple of game 4s. But I mean, when you look at the difference, like, they made the biggest change. So going into week 2. There was a couple of changes that I'd like to get into. Unilad, they obviously switched Scraps to a sub, and they moved Moose to a second AR. I think that instantly helps Moose. I feel like he was more comfortable. I think, like, Scraps can basically do it all. Like,
for sure.
He played extremely well in week number 2. Then you have Clay and RC switched. So I think after week 1, they just kind of decided, all right, we need someone to step up. Like I said, like, someone has to put numbers on the board. So they gave that third sub back to RCDs. The main AR was in the Clay. And then you had, I think that was, for the most part, that was basically it. I think you did have a switch with Epsilon, but it obviously didn't work. So going into sort of week 2, I mean, the biggest things were, how is Envy going to perform? How is Splice going to perform with Jerd back? and then will someone sort of turn it around? And I think the one team that did that was Unilad.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that's going to wrap up the week 1 recap. We pop up kind of what happened after week 2. You can see the full, the first round robin completed. We can see Luminosity up there at 6-1, along with Envy 5-2 for FaZe, 3-4 for Splice and EG, 3-4 for Unilad as well, which is pretty surprising. They really were able to turn it around. E United at 7th place at 2-5, and then, well, that's not a good map count for Epsilon, 0-7. Yeesh, things are looking bad.
Yeah, so let's go from like bottom to top. Like Epsilon, it's just a tough division. Like every time you talk to someone, these guys just don't get practice. I don't know what it is. Like the way I think about it and what it was is, you remember between stage 1 and stage 2, Splice went home last year. Splice went home.
Yeah.
They just scrimmed Epsilon, and supposedly that just like mentally messed with them. So what I imagine is those guys went home. They talked to the other players like, hey, what happened? And it was kind of like, we scrimmed Epsilon. The whole time, it just didn't work. And everybody else was probably like, all right, well, I'm not scrimming Epsilon, like I'm not going to be the one to do that, to commit to that. So it seems like ever since, and they talked about it, as soon as they lost Josh, who is a big personality over there, it was just tough for them to get scrims. So I think that did affect them, but it's still more than that. Like,
oh, definitely.
Vortex was super inconsistent. He was inconsistent last year. Vortex played well, they played well, and it was sort of the same scenario here. Dave, not the Dave that we're sort of used to last year. Like, he was a top EU player. I think the sort of main criticism is this team doesn't have a leader, and at this point, I kind of agree. They just seem lost.
Yeah, kind of in the dark hole, and it seems like. I don't know if they've necessarily given up, but it gets to the point where it's like they kind of know they don't have much of a chance. 0-7, like what are your odds of actually making playoffs? They're gonna have to basically get like a perfect record. We all know that's not going to happen, so it's got to be just a very depressing feeling for this team. I don't know if they're looking on towards the future or what exactly is going to happen with them, but they could potentially play some spoiler in some of these matches. But from what they've looked like, they just can't seem to get a consistent performance out of anyone.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say, and it kind of upsets me, is they made no changes like to their vetoes. Like, they played everybody on London Docks Hardpoint. Like, if you're not shooting well, why would you play that? So they go 1-5 in that. They go 0-4 in Gibraltar or on St. Marie, and that was they went 1-9 in Hardpoint. They made no changes throughout the week. They didn't try playing at Gibraltar. They didn't try playing at Forest. I know that, hey, we don't have the most practice on that, but you're not winning anything else. You're not winning anything else. Yeah. Might as well try it out. So that's just a little upsetting. It's the same thing with Search and Destroy. They were 1-7. They played 5 on Ardent Forest and only won one of them. So they did play the rest of them like one time, but their go-tos maybe they just have to switch them up. Maybe that'll help them improve. But yeah, this team, they need a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely. Let's I guess we'll move up along the board there. E United, and this is going to be probably the juiciest topic, obviously, as we expected them not to be in 7th place. But you said you wanted to rant a little bit. Here's your spotlight, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, this team, when you look at it last year and you just look at IW with like the K-bar, you could sort of do it all, right? Like you had long range, you had medium range, you had even short range. Like, there was one ERAD player, and that was Gunless, on the United when this team was winning, who was considered the best player in the world, like when they won Dallas. I just think this game doesn't fit them, like straight up. Like, I think you need 3 fast players. It seems like Pristini is playing at a different pace than the other 3. Of course, the AR is always going to be slower, but the 2 SMGs, whoever they are, they need to either tell Preston to slow down, which I don't think you're going to be able to do, or try to speed up. And that makes those 2 completely uncomfortable. Yep. So, like, this is what sucks is Dallas and New Orleans, they had top 6 finishes. Now they're going to try and change things up. I don't know. I don't know if the meta change is going to help them, but I'm going to be honest. I think this team needs a change. I think this team needs a new star. I think this team needs another star player. Someone who's going to put up stats very quickly, and they're going to do it at a right speed. Like, I would love to see a player like, I don't know, who's on like a weak team, like App. Like, how would App react? Because how would App play on this team? Because if you look at Apathy, he's not putting up the best stats, but who's going in first for Evil Geniuses? It's him. Like, last year, him and John switched. him and John were the two, for that NV team. So that can happen. It could be the same thing on this roster. When you look at that EG roster, he's always the first one in. Like who's going to play at the speed of apathy? I don't think there's anyone that matches that pace.
Right.
So I just think the biggest issue for this team right now is this meta, this play style doesn't fit them. Maybe the STG bar meta will help them. I don't know, because the bar, I mean, it shreds up close, right? So hopefully that helps them.
Yeah.
But if it's a 3 sub 1 AR meta, I just don't think it's going to work with this team.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy too when we talk about, potential roster changes. Those roster changes wouldn't be able to go down for quite a while. So these guys are going to have to try and work things out as much as possible. The thing that's most scary for me is, earlier on in this game, I didn't really expect E United to be extremely dominant in respawns. I didn't think they'd be necessarily bad, but when you look at Hardpoint and CTF, I thought they'd be around like the 60% mark in terms of wins in those game types. The search and destroy was so damn consistent for them, and that's what the biggest change has been. And that's when I don't want to say that the team is necessarily falling apart. I feel like that's a little bit too dramatic to say, but they're not trusting each other. That whatever cohesion they had in the game type seems to be gone. No one seems comfortable. And when you go from winning the large majority of your search and destroys to barely winning any, that makes series so much harder. Your crutch in these best of fives is gone, and now you're just kind of scrambling to get through respawns, to get through search and destroys. And I'm sure the series just feels out of control for them at almost all times. And you saw in some of the later matches, we got that very entertaining listening from them, but it just seems like they're grasping at whatever they can to try and make things work. It seems desperate. I hate to see it. I love the team. They had a lot of success together, and I feel like they were one of the best, had the most teamwork out of a lot of the teams in the Pro League. It doesn't look like that recently.
No, I basically just said last week, like, this team needs to have fun. Like, when you used to watch United, and they did try that, and it worked against Epsilon, but it was against Epsilon.
Right.
Then they lost more matches. Like, they just got crushed. It wasn't good. They lose a Game 5 to Unilad, and I think that sort of really set the tail for United. Like, here's my thing. I love switching Clay back to the main AR. Like, he's the one that's going to put up great numbers, but you got top 6 twice with Arcees being that main AR, right? Like, I don't know if that was the change that was needed. I'm not mad about it. Like, Clay's going to do great with an AR. Like, he's one of the best ARs ever to play Call of Duty.
Yep.
So it's that. And then, like you said, I think it's Search and Destroy. Like, these guys have the cadets. Like, they're practicing against some of the best S&D players in the world. I don't know if that's teaching them wrong things and timings, because, I mean, we know online Search and Destroy is just different. It is. So, like you said, like, these guys are going down 0-2 in a series, and you just can't allow that to happen. Like, if they would go down 0-1, they have a 40% hardpoint win right now.
Yep. Typically,
what would happen is they would go down 0-1, they would instantly respond and search and destroy.
Exactly.
Then there's CTF. It's solid. It's 4-3. It's a 57% win rate. Like, if they go up 2-1. This team just used to force Game 5s. Like, that's what it is. And,
exactly.
And again, they would clutch up. They would continue to win. And I feel like as that happened, as they progressed through the tournament, the more confident they got and the better those other game types did. But right now, they're just going down in series. They're trying to figure out an issue. Like, they're trying, like you said, it's desperation mode for these guys. They're basically trying to find out what works now. And that sucks to see, because, again, this was a team we projected top 4. I think almost everyone had these guys. And right now, I don't even know if they're going to get 5-6.
Damn. That's a statement right there, but it's kind of hard to disagree. You have Unilad on the up and up, really. They were able to take that clutch Game 5. You can see there on the bottom, that big 3-2 to kind of end the second round, or the second week for them. So that was huge for Unilad. Like you said, that switch, they were able to make that switch happen. Scrap seems very comfortable. Moose is probably going to be in a more consistent situation for himself. And when Moose is sort of like the backbone, you could say, for that team too, where if he's playing consistent, the game's going to feel a lot easier on the rest of the guys that we know can slay, easily at times. So very interesting stuff overall. I guess we can, leave United alone at this point. Things aren't looking too great for them. It seems like desperation mode. Man, I really do feel like they can turn it around when they do go back for the second round robin, but it's going to be tough. A lot of people are, saying that a change needs to be made. Will that happen? It remains to be seen. So Unilad is the next one we could talk about now. They're tied at that 5 and 6 slot with Evil Geniuses. Evil Geniuses with the tiebreaker. And man, good changes from them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Scrap switches to the sub. They just felt like it was more comfortable. Like you said, I think Moose just needs to perform consistently with an AR in his hands. He can. I think the sort of big thing is, they beat FaZe. I think they were 0-3. Their first match of the week, they beat FaZe, and that was just huge confidence. Then they go on, they play Epsilon. Like, great. Like, that is amazing. They have a Game 5 slip-up against EG. They probably should have won that series, like going back and rewatching it, but it happens. They didn't. And then last day, they won a Game 5 versus United. So they finished 3-4. They're currently in 6. They still have a 12-14 map record. 6 of those losses are CTF. So if I'm Unilad, I am switching up my CTF vetoes. They play a ton of Forest. Stop playing Forest. Mm-hmm. When Scraps and Shawnee are playing fast and they're playing aggressive, that's when their team's at their best, because again, you go back and look at what hardpoints they were winning. It was St. Marie and London Docks. Like, those were the two that they wanted to play. Yeah. They want to play with aggression. Well, if you want to play with aggression and respawn, stop playing Forest. Yeah, just stop playing CTF on Forest against these North American teams. Like, these top North American teams will play at this slow, steady pace. They'll clutch up more times than none. So play them on London Docks, challenge them. Like, you're gaining all this confidence over the week. Just play something different. Like, a 1-6 just isn't acceptable in CTF.
Yeah, exactly. Do not face up against these juggernaut ARs in Forest. You're probably just going to lose. I mean, a lot of these top ARs have like a 1.4 KD. Probably shouldn't play them on that. Make them run around, make things as interesting as possible for yourself. Completely agree. 6 CTF losses is quite a bit to have in 7 matches, so not going too well for them. I think they do have the potential to probably beat EG next time that they face up, and who knows, maybe sneak a win or two off of some of these top squads to potentially make it into that 4th slot. Again, all 3 of these teams are tied at 3 and 4. You never know what could happen. They seem to be on the up and up, but you got to expect EG and Splice to be just as competitive as well. Speaking on EG now, I really don't know what to say about this team. They're slotted into the 5th slot right now with the tiebreaker over Unilad. A pretty decent spot for them. I just don't see them really progressing or regressing that much when we go into the second round robin. I think they're going to stay right about here, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they have some solid wins. They 3-0 United, which I thought that was going to be the sort of spark for United, but it wasn't. Then they beat Unilad, so they beat 2 teams you would probably rank under them, and then they lose 3-0 to Splice. So it was a decent week for EG. Not like again, I don't know what to expect of this team. I just don't. It just seems so back and forth. Like, again, these guys, like, they don't perform consistently at once in the same game modes. Like, I'm gonna read something to you. Hardpoint, like, enables at a 1.11. Then you look at search. Guess his search. Just guess it for me, Tyler.
0.65.
0.64.
Wow, that was close.
Like, that can't happen. That is,
you know what that reminds me of? FaZe in IW, when Enable would have these abysmal S&Ds and it seemed like everyone else is like super comfortable. It's like the same sort of thing where he's doing just fine in every other game type. You get to Search and Destroy and Enable's just consistently 2-7, 2-8, 3-8. Those games just cannot happen. And going back to when we would analyze what was going wrong for Search and them, it's just like, I think he was like the bomb guy and just putting these really weird scenarios that you just wouldn't really expect from Enable. I'd have to go and watch their S&D more in this game to see why he's not doing so well. But man, that is just way too low. Yeah,
and you can look at the other players. Like, Nameless is like consistently at a 0.9. Again, App, you expect more from him in Respawn, but you have to remember the position that he's in. Like, he is the most aggressive player on this team. Like, he doesn't have a John next to him. Like, so you need him to step up in respawns, obviously, if they want to win more hard points. S&D, he's been great. I don't know if you watched, he had like a 16 kill Arden Forest where he started like 12-0.
Yeah.
So App's been playing great in respawn. Pat, I mean, I don't even know what to sort of. Pat's been great in search, but respawn, he just hasn't been Pat. He hasn't been Pat in Respawn for a very long time.
What I don't understand is when Pat does bad nowadays, he does really bad.
Yeah.
It's like it's all or nothing with him. He has a really good game or a really bad game, and sometimes you just need that, like him to just be at like a 1.05, just hang around there would do wonders for them. You can't have those situations where someone is going, like in Enable's case, the 0.6 in S&D. In Pat's case, when he does have those severely bad hard points, you can't even stay in the game at that point with someone going that negative. It's so hard.
Yeah. The outlier is, I mean, they're 2-8 in hardpoint. They're 5-4 in S&D. They're 3-4 in CTF, which isn't horrible, but you can't lose that many hardpoints if you want to be one of the best teams in the world. I think it's just sort of again, after matches, these guys are typically on stage or off stage having a lot of discussions with another. It just seems like they're not on the same page. Small things are falling through the cracks, which just end up to them losing. So just seems like a teamwork thing. They do have the potential to sort of slay. Like if Pat and App step up and respawn, this team will be pretty difficult to beat. But until that happens consistently, this is sort of where I expect EG.
Yeah, for sure. And it really, this is kind of going out on a limb, but it seems like it's kind of similar issues when you're talking about United and EG's issues of not really having that second player to play as fast as the main sub on the team. So seems like people don't want to be that second sub, the main one, and it seems to be a huge issue for both of these guys. But going back into it now, we can talk about Splice. Obviously, they had Fellow filling in for week 1. They start off with that 2-2 record and end up 3-4 here.
Yeah, I think for Splice, they had a very tough match 1 against Luminosity. You just get Jerd in. I don't think you expect them to win that one. Even playing, like, yes, you get Jerd back, but you haven't played with him for 10 days, right? Like, that still is weird. Then they have to play Envy. Splice just had a very tough week. They had to play, LG, Envy, and EG. So luckily they go 1-2. They're still in 4th. They're 3-4. They're 15-13 overall on map count. They're hanging in there. So I expect a better Splice in their second round robin at Atlanta. I think Atlanta helps them a ton. But we thought New Orleans was a fluke, right? Like we thought their 9th through 12th was a fluke, and with this performance, I don't know if it was. Like it's maybe they are sort of around that 7th, 8th. 9 through 12 range right now.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the match that sticks out there is that 3-2 loss versus Envy. Obviously Envy playing extremely well. And it's a lot of game 5s. Yes, they had the sub with Fellow for 2 of the game 5s in week 1, another game 5 that they're losing here. And they did have those glimpses of greatness you saw from Mad Cat and Tommy. Tommy's still been playing extremely well in my opinion, but they're going to really have to come into the swing of things early on in the second round robin to solidify their probably 4th place slot. I don't know if they're going to be able to pass up FaZe. Making up that many wins with how competitive things are, I just don't really know. Plus, you bring in the tiebreakers into play. They've lost against all these top teams above them, so when it comes down to tiebreakers, will they be able to make up that many maps? Probably not.
Yeah, and then what's scary is you have like a Unilad chasing. So you can't slip up. I expect a much better Splice. I do expect them to be in the playoffs. Can they catch FaZe? I'm gonna be on. Like FaZe could slip up, right? Like they could.
That's true. Yeah.
Again, I think what's nice for Division B teams is they have Atlanta before they're set week 7 and 8.
Yeah,
so that sort of helps them. Either that'll keep momentum rolling for like a FaZe and an Envy. Now you could say like FaZe and Envy could potentially win Atlanta. But if you're sort of having mistakes and you drop out early or you get another top 12, at least you have more time to prep for week 7 and 8. So I think that helps like a team like Splice who are just trying to get back, get things rolling once again.
For sure. And then FaZe right above them, 5-2 overall, 18-10 map record, and a little bit of a rough start for Division B for them, but they're able to turn it around. They seem to come out with the fire in the next couple of matches after their tough ones and looking pretty damn good overall. We touched on it earlier before we're previewing this, but Zuma and Attach playing like absolute monsters. Priesta been playing way better than I expected out of him, to be honest, above average in all regards, being able to do that flex so well. It's the most difficult role on the team, in my opinion, and most people's opinion. He's been doing it quite well, and Replays has been doing his job as well as possible. There is those situations where Replays is hanging out a little bit negative, but when he has his teammates to back him up and have those killer games where they're putting on so much damn pressure, they can make their way through for sure. So it was cool to see FaZe really handle business, and they just look like such a fun team to be a part of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think the scariest thing is, like, you saw what FaZe could be with the win over Luminosity. Yeah, you could say Luminosity had a slow match, fine. Like, Octane didn't play the best that game, but you saw what FaZe could do against one of the top 2 teams in the world, and they smoked them. Like, in both hardpoints, they absolutely destroyed them. So if that team can perform at that level over a weekend, you could say maybe they'll win Atlanta. You could say maybe they win Stage 1 playoffs. The only thing that scares me is they do have some sort of hiccups. They have mental hiccups where it seems like they play down to their opponent, or they don't bring the energy to the stage. And for their second 2 weeks, that can't happen, because I can guarantee that Splice or Unilat is going to put the pressure on them and try to chase them.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And moving on, Envious playing a lot better, looking really fantastic. A crazy game, obviously, to give them their first loss. But compared to what they looked like before the division, I thought they'd be hanging around maybe at the 4 or 5 slot. I'm glad a team proved me wrong. I always like when it happens, and I guess it was a matter of time for one of these other players in the team to step it up to the top caliber that we expect from them. It really was Hook, Temp, and Classic all at times really having some solid performances, but I feel like the impact that Hook is able to make as a player when he is comfortable and playing well is just a lot higher than the other two, to be honest.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you can see the impact he makes. Obviously, their one loss comes against Luminosity. If you watch that match, it was like 10 points in Hardpoint. It was 1 round in Search and Destroy. It was 1 flag. Like that's how close that series was. So Envy has the potential to compete with the world's best. And I think Slasher is the best player in the world right now. With the way he's been consistent. Yeah, I think he's the best player in the world right now. I don't know with the meta change, like without DFG, if he's still going to perform at that, but he did it at New Orleans. I just think he has the highest impact across all 3 game types. The numbers he puts up are just silly. Like right now, in the Pro League, he has a 1.37. Like that is ridiculous. It doesn't matter. Like the guy's putting up insane statistics, and I think someone touched on it. Really, when you look at Envy's transition last year to Stage 2 and Champs, where they at second, he was done with school. He's really focused on himself.
Right.
He looks like he just looks incredible. He can focus on the game. But I think the thing, and it's tough because we can negatively criticize him on it, but he hates losing. And it could be tough to have a teammate like that. Like we know he can straight up be an a-hole, right? Like at times it's very difficult to team with, but he just wants to improve. Like he wants to win. He hates the fact that even looking back on it, they got runners up at COD Champs with the way he performed.
Here's the way I look at it. You and I have both teamed with very critical teammates at times where they can not be very nice when things aren't going well, right? And they take it out on the rest of the team. The way I think about it is the guy's got a 1.3, a 1.4. All right. You can deal with that. When someone is playing that well, it doesn't matter if they're being an ass it doesn't matter. They're playing that damn good. The stats are there to show it. And Call of Duty is so damn easy when you have a teammate dropping that amount, creating that amount of impact. Like, it's absolutely insane. There's not many players that have been able to make such an impact for this amount of time as an individual, as much as Austin has. So the guy's been nuts. You got to give him his props. And the fact that he has a 1.37 overall, he has a 1.4 in S&D as well. Wow. It's no surprise that finally some of the other players are stepping it up, getting to that sort of average level. I want to try and find out some of the other KDs on the team right now. Let me.
So you have Hook at a 1.19 overall, Temp at a 1.13, and then Classic at a 0.9. So everybody's sort of there.
Yeah.
I know Temp loves when we talk about Slasher a lot, but he's had some big games versus like LG. I think he performed really well. Again, Hook really stepped up. The thing and I'm gonna touch on Slasher again. You could probably say like, oh, he's the AR player, like he has the lowest engagements. Like if you look at hardpoint stats, like he has the second highest engagements. If you
Yep.
look at their CTF stats, he's tied for the first highest engagements. Like the dude, the dude slays. Like he just slays out. So I don't know, man. Like he just seems confident. Like I was talking to Marcus or like their manager over the weekend in Orlando, and he just said like when I watch Slasher play, it just feels like he knows where all like he feels like he has wall hacks. Like he
Yep.
just knows where all four of the
It's
other
just
players
smooth.
are on the other team.
Yep.
It's he knows exactly where they are. He's able to predict every single player where they are on the map. He knows the sort of correct plays, but yeah, I think this was a great week for Envy, a great couple of weeks, and I'm happy they finally turned it around.
Yeah, definitely. And then just to touch on the respawn Slayer stats as well, Slasher sitting at 25.79 per respawn. Temp is up there with 23.62, and then Hook right below at 23.14. So the fact that 3 players are able to consistently put up that many kills, that's a recipe for success right there. They're winning a lot of gunfights. They're able to snowball that into a lot of victories and respawn and put up a lot of damn kills. So impressive, well-rounded performance from MB, which we've been waiting to see for a while. Slasher really getting some help in the slaying category from his whole team. Classic sitting at a 0.9 doesn't really matter when the rest of your team are dropping that kind of stats, exactly. And then touching on LG, sitting at number 1 with the tiebreaker. They got the 3 over Envy. You touched on it though. Close maps overall. Obviously Envy can't contend, but 6-1 with the tiebreaker overall. LG looking in full form.
Yeah, they are. And I kind of find it interesting. Like if you look at Envy stats and then you switch over to LG's, it's kind of similar. Like Slacked and John are right above a 1, similar to like Hook and Temp. And then you have Octane, who's just a tier above everyone, which you kind of expect at a 1.21. So it's similar. And then you have Cap right around there. Like, you kind of saw that with like TK. Like you had a couple of players, you had 3 players over a 1. Theory, sort of was behind a little bit, but that's fine. They're winning events. So that sort of seems to be around the formula that you want, right? You want 3 players performing around that and having that 1 guy just really step up. But the big thing for Luminosity, it's a completely different Luminosity from a year ago. Last year they dominated respawns. They were not good in search and destroy. This time they just seem to have a well-rounded all 3, but they're search and destroy. They're 8-0. They're perfect so far in stage 1.
Yep.
And that is with what we saw with TK. That is so important because you have to be able to win, game 5s. And I think Luminosity, they're very comfortable right now in search and destroy.
Yeah, absolutely insane stats from Octane, sitting at a 2.14, like just leaps and bounds.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
So last time on the show, we were talking about TJ Haley, and
Yeah.
we were like, oh my God, 1.74, the guy's unstoppable, whatever. Octane's just chilling, 2.14. They haven't lost an S&D. They're just making it look easy. And, some of the S&Ds really go down to the wire, but it never really feels like it's out of their control.
That's insane.
John has a pretty crazy first blood percentage as well. I think it was like 25%, 26%, something like that, which is pretty damn good for your, obviously, entry sub-player, one of your entry sub-players to have. So whatever they're doing is working. I feel like Cap probably has a big say on, are directing people in search and destroy, which is probably why they're a lot more consistent than they were with their previous roster. I think that's pretty safe to say, and just looking very consistent overall. Coming into this, we thought LG was going to take the number 1 spot. Envy did make it interesting with also a 6-1 record, but really comfortable for LG for the most part.
Yeah, and again, like this is a team in New Orleans probably could, like they very well could have won that event. Like if a couple of rounds go their way. Like they're trying to make a statement. Like at Atlanta, they want to win. They want to win stage 1 playoffs. Like this team, I'm sure they just still think about New Orleans and how close they were to success in holding that trophy. Like those are the teams typically that they want it the most. Like they play the most, they want it the most. The guys that literally taste it. So this team is going to continue to perform. So I'm excited. Like I think LG at Atlanta is going to be a force to be reckoned with. They just can't have a slow start like we saw at Dallas. Like if they start a little bit slow, it can get a little out of hand. But this team, they're probably top 3 in the world, top 2 in the world right now.
Definitely. Absolute beasts. That's going to basically cover it for Division B. Our recap on that. dominant performances, some lackluster performances from sides that we weren't really expecting, but overall, some very good Call of Duty. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was just saying, you look at like sort of the overall division standings, like the second 2 weeks of this are going to be nuts.
Yep.
Like you obviously have, you could probably say FaZe is pretty safe for now, but LG and Envy are pretty safe. But after that, like you go from 4 through 7, like those guys are fighting for playoff spots. They're one game, it's a 1 game difference. If E United ended up beating like, LG the last day or whatever it was, like, it could be all these teams could be at like 3 and 4. So I don't know, like it's this division is going to be a lot of fun in the second 2 weeks. But tomorrow we have Division A starting.
Yep, the double round robin. Obviously, every team plays each other twice. So Division A going back over towards Ohio. We can bring the schedule up for this week that's coming up here. You can see Echo Fox playing Vitality. This is a really low-res picture. I apologize for this. Oh, my gosh. I didn't even realize I should have went and ripped it from somewhere else. But TK versus Era, Red versus Mindfreak, Rise versus TK. Ooh, big matchup. A bit of a rematch. Yeah. We saw Rise was able to get that reverse sweep to end it last time. And then Era versus Optic Gaming to close out. Wednesday, we got TK versus Vitality, Mindfreak versus Rise, Echo, Era, Optic versus Mindfreak again. We'll see if that's going to go to a map 5 where a particular Mindfreak player was cursing during a listen-in. Rise versus Red. And then Thursday, we got Era versus Red, Mindfreak versus Vitality, Echo Fox versus Rise, which Echo Fox obviously needs to be able to turn it around ASAP if they're going to have any hope to make playoffs. And then a juggernaut matchup to end on Thursday with Optic versus DK.
Yeah, I mean, this division really just depends on 5 and 6. Like, it's going to be tough for Echo Fox, but I think if they sort of play to their potential, they can put pressure on Red Reserve. When you talk Red Reserve, let's see, this week they play Mindfreak. That's actually a pretty solid matchup, depending on how Mindfreak sort of plays. You have Rise versus Red. That could go either way. Red versus Era. Era, we're not too sure. That's the biggest thing is the bottom two. Era, just the first 2 weeks, they had so many opportunities to close games out or extend series. So it's just I don't know, man. Like it just comes down to Mindfreak and Echo Fox for me for how exciting these two matches are. But every single game with the top 4 teams, it's always going to be one to watch because we know those top 4 teams at any point can be the best teams in the world.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that one. Pulling up the standings real quick, we can see the obvious team that needs to be able to turn it around. 9-16 map count from the first couple of weeks from Echo Fox. Didn't really expect them to be under Mindfreak. I did, it was between them or Red to be that team in that 4th slot. Obviously, Red able to get some huge wins, one in particular versus Optic, and the rest of the teams really performing as expected. This group, obviously, more top heavy, 6-1, 6-1, 5-2, 5-2. So those teams really doing a good job of solidifying their slots. Out of the top 4 teams, do you feel like any of them is going to really
slip up?
I guess slip up is the best one, but obviously talking about the potential meta switch that will be coming into play with the STG and bar coming back into play instead of the FG. I guess we can kind of go through team by team to see who, if we think it's going to be a positive, a neutral, or a negative switch. And then obviously Valkyrie could be coming into the rotation as well. Our team's going to be, vetoing that right away because obviously they're not going to have that much practice on it. Are they going to try and stick to the regular vetoes? The whole strategy of this second round of match is going to be a lot different, you would think.
Yeah, so just for those of you guys in the chat, the veto process, just sort of going into it, it doesn't change much. There's not any extra picks, so it'll be one team will veto a hardpoint, another team will veto a hardpoint, and then there's 3 maps to choose from.
Right.
So, if you veto Forest, you veto Gibraltar, you'll still have London Docks. There'll be 3 maps there. So I imagine that Valkyrie won't be vetoed early on. I just don't expect it to be picked very often. It'll sort of be like grayed out. I would love to see a team just try to go for it. Like, it's a little bit different when you're like a Mindfreak or an Echo Fox when you have the potential, but like an Era or a Vitality, I know Crim really likes the map a lot. I'm not sure if you guys have been prepping it, but I would love to see a team throw a curveball in there because teams aren't going to veto it. It's just if they pick it. I don't think teams will veto it. There's no reason to. It's just going to be, do we pick this map? Like, if you have Rise versus Echo Fox, does Echo Fox try to throw a Valkyrie in there? So, even in Search and Destroy, it'll be a lot of fun to sort of see how that plays out. Yeah, because that option I imagine will be available every single veto process.
And one thing that I feel like might be coming into play for some of these top teams is maybe getting some reps in on a match that I don't want to say doesn't matter as much, but obviously if you're playing one of the lesser teams, maybe get some reps in a pro league scenario where, you can scrim a map all day, but it's not the same of playing it in a pro league scenario and really getting some good reps on it, whether it's Hardpoint, S&D, maybe just trying to get the feel for a map on land for the first time. I'm kind of surprised or excited to see how it's going to be able to play out. And I think in terms of the process, yes, it's the same, but that could create a situation where certain teams are going to have to play maps that they're not used to playing just because there is another one added into it. It could help or hurt a lot of teams in S&D where they're used to using the veto process how it is now, switching things a lot, and hopefully we're going to have some versatility or more versatility in the map sets, which I'm sure we're all pretty excited for instead of seeing, docks multiple times, forest multiple times. It should be a pretty good thing to watch.
Yeah. So for those, it's just Hardpoint and Search and Destroy. Yeah, I mean, again, like, even if you do say someone vetoes a Valkyrie, like, that opens up a choice for another map. Do you play a Gibraltar or do I play TK on Forest, right? So it'll open up. And I think Division A had more teams willing to play different maps. You saw a lot more Gibraltar. You saw a lot more Flak Tower, CTF. Division B, they were pretty – they played a lot of London Docks Hardpoint, a lot of St. Marie Hardpoint, and a ton of Forest CTF. That was pretty much the go-to. So – I'm excited for Division A to come back just for that. It seems like they're willing to open up their vetoes a little bit more. But, yeah, I'm excited to get these matches started. Obviously, tomorrow you have Rise versus TK. That's a huge match. But, yeah, there's a couple of big changes coming in, and I'm excited to see how these teams perform.
Yeah, for sure. Instead of doing I'm switching it up. I feel like we're going to play a little game. And because of the meta switch, we're going to go team by team in Division A and B, and we're going to decide which team do you think is going to be positive, negative, or neutral instead of doing a Q&A because we're both on a tight schedule here. We're going to roll through this right here. So this is going to be our Q&A session that we usually do. We're going to bring up the standings here. So we have Division A. So instead of the FG meta, we're switching over to the bar and STG. We're going down the list. Chat, you can play along if you want to. Type your answers in the chat. Optic, Joe, positive, negative, or neutral for the meta switch?
I'm going neutral. I think Krim is an absolute beast with the FG42. I think he loves that weapon, but I think they'll be fine with the STG and bar.
I'm going positive.
Okay.
For reasons that I'm not going to talk about. Rise Nation.
We'll see it this week. Let's go. Rise Nation. Let's see. You have Methods. I'll go negative on this one, right? Like, Methods was an absolute beast with I think both Methods and Gunless were beasts with the FG42. I don't think it's going to hurt them that much, but the slinging potential of those two, I feel, drop a little bit less. But, yeah, I'll just keep it short and simple.
Okay. Rise, I think I'm just going to go neutral with it. Team Caliber.
Yeah, I mean, they won the last. I'm going to go neutral because they won New Orleans. I think going into New Orleans, most people would have said the FG42 will affect Chino and accuracy the most. It did, but they still won. So I'm going to go neutral.
I'm going to go neutral as well. They obviously won an event on both metas. So, yeah, neutral. Obviously, a win is a win. There you go. I can't get much better. Can't go positive from a win. So there you go. Red Reserve.
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I'll go negative. I think Rated plays better with the FG4 too. But to be honest, the success of this team I think comes from the subs anyways, so I don't think it's a huge issue.
Yeah, I'm actually going to positive. I feel like this change is going to speed up the game, and Red seems to do better when the game's faster. So I think I'm going to go positive for Red.
Okay.
Mind Freak.
Positive. I think this team, this will sort of, again, once they got Buzzo into the hill more, it allowed him to produce, and I think the STG and Bar are better for that.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to go neutral with Mind Freak. I'm going with a neutral for Mind Freak. Echo Fox.
Echo Fox. So you have Aqua, you have Assault. This is a tough one. I'll go neutral because I thought this team should have performed really well. with the FG42 with Aqua and Assault, and they performed horribly. So hopefully this will speed those two players up.
I'm going negative for Echo Fox. Vitality.
Actually, I'm gonna go positive. I think this team performs better with the bar. I think they
So
like
they were
I
like
think
using
Malls,
the bar a little bit.
Yeah, I think Malls plays with the bar a lot in the SCG, so I'm gonna go positive.
I'm going positive, right? Vitality as well, and Era.
I'll go neutral. I don't think anything is gonna help them.
That's exact. I say neutral because I think they're screwed. Let's go to the Division B now. Bang.
Right.
Put that in the middle. Bang. Luminosity. Positive, negative, neutral.
Positive. Octane loves the STG.
Yep.
I think this team it helps them a ton.
Yep. Positive for Luminosity. I feel like I feel like the good teams are going to continue to get better. If that makes sense, because it's gonna. I don't know. That's all I'm going with. Short and sweet. Let's go down to Envy.
Envy. Neutral. I think Slashers still put up great numbers at New Orleans. If anything, it helps the second AR more, whether that be Classic or Temp. So I'm going to go neutral, but that's just due to Slashers, the AR.
Neutral for me as well. FaZe Clan.
I'm going to go positive. I think that helps their pace. I think Priesta can help out the SMGs more. You would say that, if anything, you'd be worried about replays, but replays didn't have like Dallas stats during stage 1, so I think they'll be fine.
Man, people are going to hate me for this one. I'm going negative with FaZe. Yeah. I feel like the FG is easier to use, and I feel like it might hurt Priest and replays not to have the FG in their hands. That's all I'm going with. Splice.
Hey, that's your first negative. I'm just saying. Yep. So there you go.
Yep, it is.
Splice, positive for sure. I think that this just helps them with their pace overall.
Agreed. Positive for Splice. EG.
Neutral. I don't think it matters. I think they're just a mess.
I don't know. Okay, I feel like I'm kind of like splitting it up. I feel like Respawn neutral, negative for S&D.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's what I'm going with it for EG. Unilad.
Positive, because it doesn't matter, because Scraps is really the MVP of this team, and he can use whatever he wants.
I'm going to go positive with Unilad as well. United.
United. Positive, I hope. I hope this helps them. I hope this allows Arcades and Clay to both run ARs on more maps with the bar. It helps them up close. I'm going positive.
Positive for United. I completely agree with you. Epsilon. All right, that's it.
0-7. All right. Yeah.
Chat, thank you so much for playing along with us tonight. Both Joe and I have places to go, people to see. Simple as that. Hope you guys all enjoyed the show tonight. This was episode 11. We'll be doing another one in about 2 weeks. We're both going to be busy with Pro League stuff. I have to go to Texas. So I'll be hosting the next show from Texas whenever I'm there. So in 2 weeks, we'll be doing the next episode. This will be going up on our YouTube channels afterwards as well. Hope you guys all have a really good night. We're going to run a very quick ad break, and we'll see you guys next time on the show once again.